We good? We good? We good? Testing, testing. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, 5 points. 5 points, right? 5 points. L haircut, negative aura. This is not a haircut. I just got out of the shower, so my hair is kind of flat right now. Yeah, my hair is actually exactly the same as before. So, the hair's just fat. Not fat, flat. Yeah. W haircut. There's no haircut. There's no haircut. There is no haircut right now. there's no haircut. Yeah, regardless. All right. Where are we at? You will watch the hair slowly dry over the course of this stream. I'm about to go somewhere directly after stream, so showered right before. Tiptio Treviso, thanks to 2. Prediction, Emu does a named attack with his blade. A named attack with his... Oh, and also Tiptio Treviso said, Moji working on the Wano analysis yet? 55 more days. So what I'm thinking is, because the Wano analysis has a section that's strongly defending Wano and talking up the good points. So I think doing a 2-for-1 is good. I think doing a 2-for-1 is fair, right? If I get that out, if I get the Wano analysis out by June 5th, was June 5th the cutoff date? We have to look at the... Wait, let's take a look. Let's take a look. Hold on. The cutoff date is... Here, let me share this. Let me share this. The cutoff date... Yeah, cutoff date is June 5th, right? In defense of Wano video. But if the Wano analysis has an in defense of Wano section, then it should be all fair, right? It should be all fair. I feel like that's good stuff, you know? That's better than you guys would want, I would imagine, right? Because it's like the Wano analysis comes out by then, right? That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm down with that. All right. That's good. More looking like Kal-El. That's funny. June 5th is insane, bro. That's what we agreed on. That's what we agreed on. Guys, stop freaking out about that. The hair is exactly the same. I've not gotten a haircut. The hair is the same. The hair is the same. All right, let's see. So Tiptio said, prediction, Emu does a named attack with his blade. Yeah, let's get the predictions rolling. Let's get the predictions rolling. I'm just going to duplicate this one. And then this will be 11... Holy shit, 1180. How are there so many One Piece chapters? This is just crazy. This is just crazy. How are there so many One Piece chapters? I have a new theory. I talked about it in the Pirate King podcast that just went up. For those of you who don't know, the Pirate King podcast for the month just went up. Pirate King podcast is an hour-and-a-half long podcast where I answer everybody's questions, all Pirate King tier member questions, in great detail. Far greater detail than I usually have time to on stream. So the podcast always goes really fucking long. So this one went over an hour and a half. Usually they're about an hour and a half, give or take. This one went over. One of the things I talked about is my current prediction is One Piece ends at chapter 1356. And I think things line up to suggest that. Behenort, thanks a lot. First prediction from me. Emu frees all the Holy Knights. Okay, let me get Tiptio up. First. My bad. Emu does a named attack with his blade. I wonder if Zoro has like a little duel with... No, we can't get into that. Behenor, thanks a lot. First prediction from me. Emu frees all the Holy Knights, breaks Ragnar's ice, Gunko is in, frees killing him in Sommers, etc. That would be so cool. That's a great prediction, Behenor. Great prediction. It's reminiscent to me of, if you guys remember Bleach, Karakura Town, it seemed like all the Espada were defeated, but then reinforcements arrive, and they basically... immediately turn things around. So like Halibel is broken out of the ice. A lot of stuff happens. I forget exactly. Several things happen, but that's like an example. I feel like it'd be similar to that. Emu freeze all Holy Knight. That would be great. Breaks Ragnar's ice. Gunko is in. Freeze killing him / Sommers, etc. That's a great prediction. I like that a lot. Growth Stonks, thanks for the 5. Prediction, Emu fights Zoro in 1180 because they are the closest. Also, oh, shit. Yeah. Emu fights Zoro. Bonus, we get a comment on Ryuma from Emu. How they slayed. I just don't think that I think that okay, I will give it to you if we get a comment on Ryuma from Emu. I think that the Ryuma slaying Ryugashima is just not a thing because Ryuma is from the second world, as far as we know. He's from the second world. So it wouldn't really make sense for that to happen, you know? Yeah, I think that wouldn't really make sense. It's possible, but I just don't think... I mean, maybe Oda didn't keep track of some things. I don't know. Let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. Let's get the stream likes up to 50. Emu opens the gates of hell. That'd be crazy. Where or what happened to Bonnie in the current manga? I still think this is not even a me idea. I think somebody from chat initially suggested this. I think, or it was a YouTube comment or something like that. I think that we could see Bonnie aging down Jarl. I think that'd be really cool. Ryugashima the War God. So, like, if... First of all, I am now fully on board the idea that the original character, what do you call? The War God, right? The previous War God. I strongly believe that the War God died in where Punk Hazard is. I think that's where that must have happened. I think that's where that happened. And Kaido just moved it over to Wano. I think that's the case. So many things suggest that, but I don't want to get into all of that right now. But even if the War God was at Wano and died there, and that's his skull that we see, even if that's the case, the thing is, even if that's the case, how do I say this? I don't think Ryuma could have been the one to kill him because it's just the timelines don't match up. It sounds like no one has been able to eat that fruit in the third world, and Ryuma's from the third world. Sorry, I kept saying Ryuma's from the second world. Ryuma should be from the third world as far as we know. But the War God is from the second world, maybe even the first world. So it doesn't really line up, right? Notified, thanks for the 10. I like the Pirate King podcast. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Again, if you guys want to check out the Pirate King podcast or all previous, we're at like 30 something, maybe close to 40 Pirate King podcasts now. If you want to check those out, yeah, you can just support by becoming a member, Pirate King member, etc. For my law question, I wonder if Luffy's ability to draw enemies to his side will be paralleled in Blackbeard with Law, as it already has with Shiryu / Kuzan level 6. So I think the difference is that Blackbeard, I don't think really Okay, so it depends on what you mean, because Blackbeard doesn't genuinely draw people to his side. He offers them it's the other way around. He offers them he's good at making really shaky short-term deals and conditional deals. With Blackbeard, everything's conditional. With Luffy, everything is unconditional, right? So with Luffy, the types of relationships and bonds that he makes with his crewmates are generally not contingent on anything other than Luffy liking the type of person that they are. I think one of the cool things Oda does is that very often he has Luffy invite people to join his crew without Luffy even knowing the special set of skills that they have, you know? Luffy didn't even know Sanji was a good cook when Luffy offered him to join the crew. Luffy had not yet tried Sanji's food, from what I recall. He had not yet tried Sanji's food. He hadn't gotten the opportunity to do that, I believe. I might have to go back to make sure, but I think he just saw Sanji feeding Jin and then decided based on that he wanted to have Sanji become his cook. With Nami, Luffy didn't know Nami was a great navigator. He invited her to join like pretty much right away when he met her because he just liked the type of person that she was. He didn't know the importance of Robin being able to read the poneglyphs. You can kind of just go down the list. He didn't think Usopp was like even a particularly good fighter or anything. Like they kind of discovered some talents of Usopp's afterwards. Chopper, I mean, this was a famous gag. Luffy just invited Chopper because Luffy didn't even know Chopper was a doctor once Chopper was on the crew. They're like, why'd you invite him? He's like, oh, cool transformations or whatever, you know? So I think that's like a really important aspect of Luffy, which is that he just likes somebody and then invites them to join with no real benefit for himself. And there's no real benefit to the crew member either. They just end up liking Luffy and deciding to join his crew, if that makes sense. Like, in theory, joining Luffy can help them achieve their dreams, but that's not what they're thinking necessarily, you know? It's not like, Robin joined Luffy because she's like, okay, with Luffy, I'll be able to find the true history. No, it's just like, I am so deeply indebted to Luffy. I care about him. I want to use my talents to help him serve his dreams, you know? It's things like that. It's rarely to get something. So Luffy doesn't want a crewmate because it gets him something, and the crewmate doesn't want to join Luffy because it helps them further their own goals. Usually it's more like the crewmate is like, I want to join Luffy now because I want to use my skills to genuinely help him in his dream. They all put his dream first, right? So Blackbeard, all that being said, with Blackbeard, it's the total opposite. With Blackbeard, the original members might be an exception, but everybody from Impel Down onwards has it's been very conditional and transactional, where the mentality is kind of like, if I join Blackbeard, I can further my own purposes, right? My own goals. Blackbeard even says that's the dynamic of his crew, right? Like even Aokiji, the reason Aokiji joined is because Aokiji thought about it and was like, okay, by joining Blackbeard, I can use Blackbeard as a means to further my own goals. We don't know Aokiji's true goals yet, but that was Aokiji's mentality, right? Just across the board, that's how all of his crewmates are. They straight up say, at Marineford, they're literally like, yeah, if Blackbeard's not able to take the Guruguru no Mi from Whitebeard, we're probably all just going to ditch him. That's literally what they talk about, you know? So, for them, Blackbeard's a means to an end, right? Blackbeard is not good at drawing people to him in the way that Luffy is, because Blackbeard doesn't draw people to him because of his character or what he does he doesn't draw people to him because of his character or his charisma. He draws people to him because he's good at making deals, which is a very, very different type of, it's supposed to be the total opposite of how Luffy gets his crewmates, right? The Impel Down crewmates only even joined in the first place because they thought that Blackbeard would get them out of fucking prison. You know? So it's very, very different in that regard. It's similar on the surface, but different in actual principle. And I think that's like a really cool aspect of the whole Blackbeard-Luffy dynamic, in that I think you could kind of sum it up with that simple distinction. Similar on the surface, but extremely different in the core principle, right? It looks similar, kind of their trajectories, their ambitions, their beliefs, you know, man's dream never ends, the power of dreams, nothing's impossible. It all looks very similar, but when you look under the hood at what's actually happening, it could not be more different. I think that's why Blackbeard's such a brilliant villain. That's why I still lean towards hoping that he is the final villain of One Piece. Let's get stream likes up to 50 real quick. Continuing on. Sorry, that's let's keep going. Hold on, we got a lot. Empty Mind, thanks to the 2. Zero chance Usopp dies because of hockey plotline plus Van Augur. Yeah. I mean, he could have a big hockey bloom here, but I agree that he's got to fight Van Augur, so I don't think Usopp's dying in Elbaf for sure. Paul, thanks to the 2. Emu being present can now dom University Loki. I'll put that down as your prediction. I think that'd be cool to see. I still think that'd be a great fight. I know you're not necessarily putting down this as a prediction, but I'm like, why not? Let's just put it down. If it comes true, then, you know. Empty Mind, thanks to 2. How did Sommer's heart survive Luffy's attack? I don't know. I really don't know. It's maybe the heart regenerates in some way. Or maybe the heart's made of, like... There's nothing the heart should be made out of that could withstand an attack like that from Luffy, right? I don't know. Maybe after Herald died, Imu was like, I need some little extra juice for these God's Knights to make sure they don't die. So he had that mechanical heart thing created. I don't know. Deputy Visa, thanks to 2. Morge, your law will sacrifice himself to undo Imu's regeneration. It's just cope for Dressrosa length bloat in the form of mental gymnastics. Regeneration is devil fruit based. Well, okay, if regeneration's devil, but the the eternal youth thing. Oh, you're saying that the eternal youth is what law created, right? Not the like Imu's ability to regenerate is just due to Imu's own fruit. Yeah, that is possible. But then if I'm like, because people are talking basically about how, like, what is your argument is that Law will do it on Blackbeard, right? But then why would Eternal Youth Surgery matter at that point? You know? Why would Eternal Youth Surgery matter if it's got nothing to do with immortality? Like, in the current day, you know? Like, because the story's going to end pretty soon, so giving someone agelessness wouldn't really affect the plot, right? Justin, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 42 months, man. I hope you enjoyed the latest Pirate King podcast. Imu's monologue exchange with Luffy and Loki, the latter two getting overwhelmed from the start, but slightly... Imu monologues with Luffy and Loki, the latter two get overwhelmed from the start, but slightly hold out for the moment. Some named characters die, some giants are taken, Strahd allies back up. That's a lot of predictions here. Okay, let's get him. Let's put him down. I'm not gonna put down Imu has a essentially monologue dialogue with Luffy and Loki. I will put down, because I think that's a little bit broad, personally. I will put down Imu overwhelms Luffy and Loki at the start. Imu overwhelms Luffy/Loki at the start, but they hold their own. Damn, some named characters die? I'll make that a separate prediction. Named characters die and giants are taken captive. I'm going to leave out Strahd allies backup because... oh, wait, are you saying Strahd allies also arrive as backup? I think that's a few too many predictions. So we're going to stick with these because I don't want to flood it with one person's predictions, if that's okay. Fatingo, thanks for the 10. Final thoughts on Chainsaw Man's end. To me, it felt very fitting to Fujimoto as an author and Chainsaw Man as a series. Thematically, it felt like a Chainsaw Man-esque ending, and that was satisfying in its own unique way. I don't really want to spoil the ending, but it feels fitting to Fujimoto. That's true. I disagree that it feels fitting to Chainsaw Man as a series, because Chainsaw Man will do very abrupt and drastic things, but it had generally been written as trying to tell more close to a traditional story than Fujimoto's other stories. And then because of that, like if you look at Chainsaw Man Part 1's ending, it is really drastically different from how most shonen end, but it still felt true to the vibe of the story up to that point, which is that it is still trying to tell a story where a lot of the plot and developments and such do matter, right? Chainsaw Man Part 2's ending is basically just, it told a relatively more traditional story, but then scrapped it all at the end. That is a traditional Fujimoto-esque ending, but when he's done it in the past, like for his one-shots, right? Doing it for one-shots is so totally different from doing it for like a 200-chapter-long series. Doing it for a one-shot, it's kind of like, it's a very short, self-contained concept. You're not growing deeply attached to a very multidimensional, very developed, intricate plot or storyline in the process, you know? With a bunch of characters, character arcs, character threads, yada yada, right? And the only comparison would be Fire Punch, but the difference is that Fire Punch was written in a manner where from the get-go we could tell that this was very, sort of a very, very unconventional story where lots of times throughout the plot things were developed and then scrapped and then developed and then scrapped, and you could tell that there was a sort of deliberate intent to that and that there was a point being made by him doing that sort of repeatedly and continually shifting what the story seems to be about, what the character arcs seem to be about, and then all of that kind of wound together to reach an ending where you really get the point that he was doing with that sort of storytelling from start to finish. Again, Chainsaw Man Part 2 did not feel like that. It felt more so like telling a relatively traditional shonen type story and then just saying it just doesn't really matter at the end in a manner that I've never seen done that drastically. So I agree that thematically, I think it does serve a purpose, and I think that it is true to some of the idea, like that is the final conclusion that the author wanted to get to, but it just makes so much of it superfluous and unnecessary that he wrote in the process and made you get attached to things for no reason, and it just doesn't give you a reason to care, I think, at the end. So does that make sense? Like, it has a similar sort of ending to something like a Fire Force or his one-shots, but the journey to get there, I feel, is so dramatically different than the type of ending that it almost makes the journey feel pointless, if that makes sense. Whereas with Fire Punch, the journey segued into the end, if that makes sense, despite the two endings being of a similar sort of type. So I personally just don't like it. I don't think I'll like it even on reread, because on reread, that's the thing, like, if I were to reread Fire Punch from start to finish, even with the ending being the way that it is, I would be able to appreciate so much about the stories, about the ideas that are going into it, and I feel like nothing would be meaningless. Whereas with Chainsaw Man Part 2, reading the story from start to finish, I would feel like I'm just doing it as homework to check it off, because none of it has any meaning at the end of the day. Behenort, thanks a lot. Which fruit was born first, Emu's or Luffy's? I think the first Nika from the first world was a real person who was given powers by touching the Forbidden Sun. Then Emu also touched it in the second world, thus devil fruits are born. I think that Luffy's fruit was first. I still believe that it kind of went... I personally think that the way that it worked, and obviously this could turn... Maybe Luffy's fruit and Emu's fruit are like the first two fruits. That's entirely possible. But I personally believe that if we go by the Harley text and what we kind of know about the way devil fruits developed, right? It sounds to me like in the first world, people were really suffering as slaves, etc. And so they touched the sun and were able to get a wish granted, right? And the first person probably wished for Nika to be real or something like that. And so a devil fruit was born that allowed one to turn into Nika. So the sun god is the first god that's talked about in the Harley text. I wouldn't be surprised if Emu's fruit is the last devil fruit to have been created. Because to me, it seems like after the sun was touched, that from then on, devil fruits started to become real. The first one that someone wished for was, of course, the Nika fruit. But then beyond that, lots of many other fruits started to pop up as people's beliefs slowly became reality, right? So what likely happened was that as these devil fruits were created, right, so many fruit users are starting to pop up all across the world, throughout the second world, right? Because the first world kind of ends with the sun being touched, it sounds like, and the Nika fruit being born. That segues into the second world where now fruits are being born everywhere, right? So with fruits being born everywhere, people don't know what caused the creation of devil fruits, so people imagine that, like, oh my god, there's all these scary... crazy, powerful fruits that are appearing all over the world. It feels like black magic, right? Like, it feels very scary and terrifying. It feels like black magic. It feels like this must be the devil's work. And so I feel like people then imagine the concept of this devil that's creating all these fruits. And with that, then, corresponding to people's beliefs, finally an all-powerful devil fruit is born, which is the product of what people imagine a deity who is capable of creating the devil fruits to be, right? Sorry if the phrasing of that sentence sounded weird, but does that make sense? It's like, oh my god, all these crazy powers are popping up all over the world. I imagine there must be a being that is so powerful that he's able to create all of these fruits, and because they imagine a being that's so powerful that he can create all these fruits, that then becomes reality in the form of a fruit itself that can create such a being, right? And so whoever eats that fruit becomes crazy powerful because that fruit is born from people's beliefs of like a fruit that is the granddaddy of all fruits, even though it's kind of the reverse, if that makes sense, right? It's not like there was a great devil who created all these devil fruits. All these devil fruits are created. People assume there must be a devil that creates these fruits, and so a devil is created so that's brought into reality, right? So, people imagine the granddaddy of all devil fruits, but in reality, it turns out to be like the final, the final devil fruit that's created, right? Like people's wish for an origin creates a being that is so powerful that it hypothetically could be the origin of all devil fruits, even though it's not, right? And so then once Emu eats that fruit, then everything, then all hell break. Then you've got like the most broken fruit in the world on your hands, right? Because it's formed from people attributing all the powers of the devil fruits to a single source, right? And so now that this source, that's not really a source, is created, whoever eats that, you're now automatically more powerful than all these other devil fruits because people imagine the granddaddy of all devil fruits. Sorry if I explained that in a circle a few times, but you know what I'm saying. That's what I imagine at the moment, but could be totally wrong. I imagine that's also why there wasn't a threat like Emu. Like, what Emu was probably the first person to be able to eat that fruit. And so now you've got the most broken ability in the world. And I imagine that's why there probably wasn't a threat like Emu in the first world, but we might be wrong. Elijah Petty, thanks to Emu traps Loki inside a wall like the Hellfire Serpent. Ooh, that'd be crazy. JR182, thanks for 2. When do you think we will see Lucci again, if ever? I think we could see him literally in the Elbaf arc if we cut away to... I strongly believe Lucci's going to be made a God's Knight. I think Lucci is perfect for being a God's Knight. Literally perfect for being a God's Knight. Here, let's take a look at this. Let's get Streamlights up to 100 real quick, right? So, when did that chapter happen? I feel like I kind of know. Hold on. I feel like it was probably around 1084. 1084. Here we go. So here. Yeah. Take a look at this shit. All right. So. It's the Shirahoshi incident. Yada yada. Yada 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 yada. Where the fuck is Lucci? I swear Lucci shows up soon. Does Lucci show up next chapter? He shows up soon. Where is this guy? Where's this guy? The Celestial Dragons are in trouble. Come save him. What is he doing? Sleeping on the job. Okay, I think here? What the fuck? Where is our guy Lucci? What is he up to? I swear to God. I swear to God Lucci shows up here. Wait, did I miss him? Maybe I scrolled past him already. Maybe I already scrolled past him. I must have scrolled past him already. Hold on. Okay, stop me if you see Lucci. Stop me if you see... I must have scrolled past him. Maybe he was in the previous chapter. Murder for Celestial Dragon, right? So, yada yada yada. This is... I'm sorry for the long detour, but I'm now very interested in this, okay? So, this is happening. Is it the... Maybe it's the previous chapter. Maybe it's the previous chapter. Yeah, it must be the previous chapter. That's got to be it. That's why I'm missing it. Here we go. One chapter back. My bad. Right? Okay, so let's look. So, crazy shit happening, yada yada. Oh my god. I'm hallucinating things. I'm genuine. What is going on? What is going on? Am I crazy? Maybe it happens during the initial reverie. Can anybody help me out here? I can look at the One Piece wiki. It was 1083? You sure? 1083. I think it might be during the rev. Oh, here we go. Yeah, it must have been during the reverie. Here we go. Here we go. All right, 908. Maybe it's 907. Maybe it's 907. Let's see. Come on. There we go. All right. Who are you people? Blah, blah, blah. I think some gratitude is in order first. The Celestial... Yeah, see. So, Lucci is a Celestial Dragon bootlicker. The Celestial Dragons are the gods who create the world. It is natural order for gods to have whatever they desire. How is this guy... This guy's clearly primed to be a God's Knight. Why would this guy not be a God's Knight? Like, if they're looking for more God's Knights, this guy's it, right? Oh, shoot. I forgot to unpin this message. And you know what? I'm deeply sorry that I had that message pinned, because what should be pinned is this. For those of you who enjoy fine art, we have, right now, a crazy deal going. If you want to get Emu in his Zoan form, Loki in his Zoan form, Luffy in his Zoan form, right? We got Emu in Zoan form, Nidhogg, Nika, the God Trio. We've got a crazy deal going right now. You can get any of our posters from any collections, any combination of 5 posters for the price of 2. You can buy 2, get 3. You can mix and match all posters. You can get 1 ship. You can get 3 islands. You can get one of the God posters, or like you can have 5 character posters if you want, and then 3 are free. Buy any 5, get any 5 posters. 3 of them will be free. Buy 2, get 3 free. Mix and match across the whole collection. If you want 4 island posters, 1 character poster, whatever you may like, all your favorite characters are here. You can get 5 of your favorite characters if you like. And then, of course, these are April only. So the God Trio is April only. Make sure you get these while you can. We're taking this off the market at the end of April. So big spring sale, buy 2, get 3. Make sure you get your hands on these while you can. And the God Trio will be gone after April. So watch out for that. All right, continuing on. Elijah Petty, thanks for the 5. I hope Emu doesn't turn out to be some Obito-type villain obsessed over some chick. Imagine if... I don't think that's going to be the case, but imagine if we end up getting... Like, people have shit all over Naruto's ending, and for the terrible handling of its villains between Kaguya and Obito, right? Imagine if Oda's final villain, imagine if Imu's the final villain and Oda actually like one-ups Kishimoto by combining Kaguya and Obito into one even worse villain than either of them. He's just like, alright, Imu is gonna basically be like Kaguya, but he's gonna have all the motivations and terrible writing of Obito. Isn't that like the best shit ever? I don't think that's gonna happen though. I mean, Emu being salty over Lily is probably fine as long as it's not like the defining thing of his character, you know? Tom9739, thanks for the 2. Do you find it weird no one told the Straughts about Kid yet? I feel like that is actually interesting. Also, let's get stream likes up to 100 real quick. I just don't know if that would be like a notable thing, because they wouldn't necessarily know how that the... I guess they might kind... Okay, I mean, let's all go to rule number 1 of One Piece, right? Rule number 1 of enjoying One Piece does not function as a story if characters share information with each other, like basic knowledge, you know? It does not work. I don't know what characters talk about at these big banquets and parties when they're hanging out, because they've got time. They've got plenty of time. I don't know what they talk about when they're just like, you know, when, you know, Gerd or Ripley's walking Frankie over to the fucking ancient lab. What are they talking about the entire time? I don't know. Probably simple questions like, how was your trip here? How's your adventure? Anything interesting happen? And Frankie's like, yeah, Egghead, Vegapunk, all this crazy shit or whatever, right? Like, there's probably stuff like that happening off screen. Like, did anything in, like, what's been going on in Elbaf? You know, oh, these crazy pirates. Oh, interestingly, the pirates that you guys allied with at Wano, they came here and we killed, or Shanks killed him and stuff. Oh, Shanks was here. Like, That's normal conversation that would happen in the real world, or really any other story in the world, not in One Piece. In One Piece, what did they talk about? Probably nothing. I don't know what they talk about. I don't know. It's possible, I guess you could argue that the Elbaf Giants wouldn't know that the Straw Hats know the Kid Pirates because maybe news hasn't hit the island yet. Right? It's possible news didn't hit the island about, like, because does the news coup even go there? I don't think so, right? They're not gonna, because the news isn't free, right? You got to pay a subscription. Like, Morgan's isn't going around just sending news out for free. So I guess that's probably fair, right? So maybe it just doesn't come up, but it probably's got to come up in some way. Like, oh, Elbaf was just attacked, like, yesterday. It would have been, I don't know how long it would have been, like maybe a day or two ago or something like that by, like another Yonko was here just a couple days ago. What happened? Yada, yada. I feel like it would be very hard for it to not come up in conversation, right? I feel like it would be very hard for it to not come up in conversation. But again, in One Piece, nobody can share information. Otherwise, the story just doesn't work. So do I find it weird no one told the Straw Hats about Kid yet? I would find it weird if it was any other story but One Piece. But in One Piece, it's just kind of like you just accept that that's the way it is, you know? Darren White, thanks for the 10. What do you think about the theory that Luffy's dream is to touch the sun? And I mean that literally, and that is how the final villain will lose, assuming it's Blackbeard will be a parallel to Ace and Blackbeard. I think that's a really cool theory. Because it's a dream that seems... It's a dream that would cause people to laugh and have that sort of ridiculous reaction like they do, right? But it's a dream that can be real if the One Piece is the sun itself. So I think I like that. I like that idea. I never thought about that before, but that is a really good idea. Julian Reed, thanks to the 5. If Imu sends Holy Knights back to Marijua, fights all of Elbaf himself. Insane feat to introduce your villain. Straw Hats bailed due to some condition with Imu sick. That's a cool idea, because then it preserves a lot of the Holy Knights for future use, and then sets up for some story writing in the final war. That's a cool idea. I like that. Imu sends all Holy Knights back to Marijua. That's kind of the reverse direction that I think most people are thinking right now, but it's very believable. Empty Mind, thanks to 2. When does Luffy see Shanks? Why didn't Marco heal Whitebeard? Why didn't Marco heal Whitebeard? I mean, during the war, let's start with that. During the war, Marco had other shit. I think there's got to be limits to Marco's healing ability, right? So there's limits, like, he can't heal whatever the fuck Whitebeard was ailing from. And I don't think he can just heal old age, period. And that's ultimately a large part of what Whitebeard was dealing with. So it's possible, like, we don't know. Marco might have been doing stuff on the ship, right? He might have been doing stuff on the ship. Yeah, he might have been doing stuff on the ship. What am I thinking? If he was doing stuff on the ship to heal Whitebeard, then that could be, that could have honestly maybe helped expand Whitebeard's lifespan, or extend Whitebeard's lifespan by a bit. And then on top of that, during the war, Marco is busy doing other stuff, right? There's no time to be doctoring and stuff like that. Like, Marco was the only member of the Whitebeard Pirates that could fly, from what I remember, and then that became like a big, that kind of became one of Marco's more unique roles. Like, he would often be sent a little bit ahead to do some aerial stuff, or try and save Ace from the sky, stuff like that, And when does Luffy see Shanks? Okay, so I still believe that Luffy seeing Shanks could happen here in Elbaf. I think that that's a solid possibility. Let me throw that to the people. Will Luffy see Shanks in Elbaf? Yes, no. Does the meeting happen here? If it happened, I mean, there's three possibilities, right? One, Shanks shows up during the battle with Emu and helps, right? Two, they resolve the battle with Emu, somewhat successfully, I suppose, even. And then Shanks comes in at the end while they're celebrating or some shit. You know, just like a post-arc thing. That would be a good moment where Luffy has proven how strong he is, whatever, etc., right? And then three, Luffy doesn't meet Shanks here at all. He's got to wait till Laugh Tale or the Final War or whatever. Okay, we're leaning towards no for Luffy meeting Shanks in Elbaf. Yeah, I don't know. I imagine it's pretty split. Yeah, it seems like close to 60-40 split. Close to 60-40. I still want to know what wedding Shanks was at. Tiptio, thanks for the 5-man. I've thought Emu's regeneration is from fruit. It's Marco's regeneration on steroid. Devils in media often get broken regeneration. Blackbeard getting it doesn't need OP nonsense. Blackbeard getting it... Hold on. Okay, so Emu... So the two things we're discussing are, did Emu get his regeneration from the Ope Ope no Mi operation or just from Emu's own Zoan, right? Those are the two possibilities, right? Blackbeard getting it doesn't need OP nonsense. So, I'm just a little lost what you're saying. So, like, if Blackbeard's regeneration is from, or if Emu's regeneration is from the Zoan fruit, right? Then assuming Blackbeard steals the Zoan fruit, then he's got the regeneration down, right? But from what I remember from the Pirate King podcast, it was also discussed, like in the question, it was also talking about, well, what if Law gives Blackbeard the Eternal Youth operation, right? So I guess my question is just like, what would be the point of Law killing himself for the Eternal Youth operation, what would be the point of Law killing himself to give Blackbeard the Eternal Youth operation if it doesn't even give Blackbeard any sort of combat advantage, you know? Assuming it's the Zoan fruit that gives you the regeneration part. Banor, thanks a lot. Another prediction. Emu pierces Gerd's heart with his tail while freeing Sommers. If a character does die, it might be someone from Hadruden's crew. Emu pierces Gerd's tail with his heart while freeing Sommers. Let's see. That would be... Yeah, I think Gerd could be a good candidate. Emu pierces Gerd's heart with his tail while freeing Sommers. Any deaths will be from... Viraj D0311, thanks a lot. Prediction, Emu one-shot Zoro. That would be the first time Zoro's... I talked about this a little bit last stream, but that would be the first time that Zoro is used as a hype tool since pre-time skip. That'd be crazy. The tier Trevisa thanks to two. Lucci wants to excuse violence. Celestial Dragon's rule allows it. Exactly. That's why I think Lucci would be the perfect God's Knight. I think two characters right now would be perfect God's Knights. That's Lucci and Green Bull, because they both genuinely like the Celestial Dragon's rule. They like the type of world that creates. They like serving the Celestial Dragons for different reasons, I think. But Lucci, obviously, the violence that the Celestial Dragons enable for him, or like give him a pass for, or permission for, or encourage him to do, that's the big draw. Dare Boppler with a funny prediction, but a very possible one. Luffy gives Emu a nickname. Emu gets pissed. Luffy giving Emu, of all people, a nickname would be crazy. But not out of character, of course. The hell? What is going on here? Oh, I Did the wrong thing. Okay. Luffy gives Emu a nickname. Emu is pissed. I like that. Tom, thanks for the 2-man. It's revealed Emu has one of the only 5. No. No. Revealed Emu has one of the only 5 flying devil fruits. I don't know what Oda was thinking when he wrote that. That's funny. 3070. Who are the five flying types? If we were to say there's only 5, right? We got Pell, we got Loki, Dragon, Marco, right? Who else flies? Mars. No, Mars might not have a fruit though. Pell, Loki, Dragon, Marco. Was Pell right? Was Pell correct? This would be mind blowing. I must just not be thinking of something. Was Pell correct? Who else flies? King. Sasaki. I think we can give that one a pass. I think Loki. I wrote Dragon. Kaido is what I meant to say. Kaido, Pell, Loki, Kaido, Marco, King. I think Sasaki's doesn't count. Shiki. So Shiki floats, which is technically different. Many. The hell, Sasaki? Stronger and shit. What's Stronger's fruit? Pegasus? No, because that's the horse fruit. Stronger and Lafitte. Oh, fuck. Yeah, Lafitte has wings. Lafitte. Buffalo. The BB fruit and the Beetle fruit. I was trying to give a pass to like the rotating characters, so like a Buffalo, Sasaki. I'm like, is that technically fall in a different category? Like, but now there's too many. Morgan, yeah. Sad. Karasu, Robin. I was trying not to count characters that have found creative ways to fly with their fruit. Like Robin's fruit, I don't think you would like, we didn't even realize you could fucking fly with that till way later. Like, that's one where you have to stretch a bit to find ways to get airborne. But just intrinsically, like, obviously, like a bird type fruit will let you fly. You know, I think that's a little bit different. But even if we try and really be generous to Pell's statement, it just doesn't work. Factory Cow, thanks to the 5. Predicting that Emu's Lunarian look is base form and transformation is something else or not Zoan-based. I think Emu's shadow is a stasis/cocoon. Ooh, that'd be interesting. One thing I've thought about that I hope is addressed is, like, you know how in shadow form, I'll write your prediction down in a moment. But you know how in shadow form, it's like Emu is truly, like, nothing can hurt him, even Haki, from what we can tell, right? In shadow form, it's just like Emu's untouchable. It's not like the God's Knights or the Gorsay where they regenerate. In shadow form, Emu's like, there's not even regeneration necessarily. There's just not damage done to him. It's like cutting up a shadow or punching a shadow, right? My worry is that if the shadow, not my worry, but my random thought is just like, what if in his true form, whatever it is, he can be hit? Wouldn't that be weird? Like, what if shadow form is shadow form? No, that wouldn't make sense, right? Oda would never do that. But I just wonder. I'm like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't want it to be another situation which is like the King fight, where it's like let's say in the real, like, you know how King, the flame on, flame off determines his durability? And it's like, I guess what I'm getting at is, I hope that Oda doesn't write it such that, okay, for him to use his full offensive power, he needs to go into this form, but then he no longer gets the benefits of the shadow form. So I'm like, but in that case, the shadow form's just better, right? Yeah, if shadow form is invincible, he could just spam shadow form. Yeah, but that's my thought. That's my worry, which is that what if that is the case, but Oda just didn't really think it through, and so he just has Emu fight in his real form for no reason, even though the shadow form would be impervious to damage. Because some people still argue that was the case with the King situation. King's flame on, flame off. Shadow form keeps him immortal by stopping whatever sickness he has. I could actually see that happening. I would really, really dislike that if that's the case. Like, I hope Emu retains his sort of pure invulnerability even with his Lunarian form, or whatever it is, devil form, zone form, whatever. All right, so Factory Cow said, because otherwise it's just stupid, you know? Predicting that Emu's Lunarian look is base form and transformation is something else or not zone based. Okay. Emu's Lunarian look is base form and transformation is something else or not zone based. Emu's shadow is a stasis / cocoon. Yeah, that would be interesting. Mr. Saturn Lo-Fi, thanks for the 5. What if Blackbeard uses pudding to broadcast Garb's memories of God Valley, revealing the evil of world government? Oh, that'd be really cool. That's not a prediction for this chapter, I imagine, but that would be really, really cool. Because I think pudding is a very important Chekhov's gun, potentially, in terms of her memory fruit. Because her fruit is really, really special. It can do a lot of unique stuff. But interestingly, in the Whole Cake Island arc, her fruit was pretty much irrelevant. It didn't do anything that was impacting the plot over the course of Whole Cake Island. She used it to eliminate Reiju's memory, but that's pretty much all. And that wasn't like really important for the plot, because Oda could have just not had Reiju even finding out about Pudding's plot was just like not really important to the story, you know? It was just an excuse for Pudding to announce her plan out loud so that Sanji could overhear it, you know? It felt like the Reiju Pudding scene, it felt like it was more important that Oda was establishing that Pudding has the memory fruit than anything else. But then the memory fruit reveal didn't go anywhere. Empty Mind, thanks for the 5. Jupiter being a traitor has to be the stupidest theory ever. It baffles me so many people think this. You have to be extremely evil to become a Gorsay. I mean, you could look at it the other way, which is just that... I don't think it's a stupid theory, because Oda has been going down the route over, like, so far in the story, it's been done, like, over and over and over again. Like, Oda really likes this, especially post-time skip. The villain group having some sort of a traitor or double agent inside who's actually good, right? Who goes against the bad guys, right? Oda's done this every single arc for every single organization, right? Doflamingo, that was his whole storyline. And Doflamingo obviously is meant to parallel Emu and Emu's story very, very closely, right? Down to the Gorsay. And one of Doflamingo's core 5 was a traitor, right? You go down the line, you see it in the Big Mom Pirates. There was a traitor storyline against Big Mom. Multiple traitor storylines. Beast Pirates, of course, same thing. X-Drake, double agent. What do you call? Very next arc, everybody fucking betrayed. Everybody except Kizaru turned on the world government. I mean, Stussy, Sentomaru, etc. Like, Oda likes the idea of, like, villain subordinate characters turning on the boss, right? So, I get what you're saying. Like, you have to be really evil to be a Gorsay. But we have to remember a few things, right? Celestial dragons are raised in an environment where they are essentially taught to be evil, right? They're taught to be evil. Okay, so that has to be understood. This is not to excuse celestial dragons, but we are shown that when they're taken out of their bubble right? When they're removed from their bubble and shown other aspects of the world and forced to feel empathy and learn, celestial dragons can change. There's nothing, it's never implied there's anything genetically evil about the celestial dragons. It literally is just a group of humans who, over 800 years, have built this isolated culture where they are taught that they are a different species, and they're taught that it is, for them, morally good to have slaves and stuff like that, right? You'd be very, very surprised about, like, I just think people severely underestimate the impact of environment on what your standards for morality are, okay? What we've been shown is not that celestial dragons need to be forgiven, right? Oda has kind of shown multiple times in the story that, you know, like, Doflamingo's father, or, what do you call, Homing, Mjosgård, he's shown multiple celestial dragons who are able to see the error of their ways and change, right? But interestingly, Oda also does not let these characters get away. None of this is to say that celestial dragons should be forgiven, right? This is just saying that what Oda has shown is that they can be awakened at the very least to the reality of their actions and try to repent for them. Interestingly, Oda does not allow them to get away from, I suppose, justice in the story, right? Like, at the end of the day, Doflamingo's father, he had the best intentions, but Oda still said that he needs to die, right? Mjosgård, he saw the error of his ways, tried to change, tried to help, Shiroshi, etc., fishmen. Oda still had him die in the story, right? So we can keep these things separate, right? We can understand that not every celestial dragon is inherently evil. They're molded into evil and they can change. That has no bearing on what sort of justice or what they deserve, right? Okay, so keep that in mind, all right? Those are two separate discussions. So if we understand from celestial dragons, let's take this piece by piece. If we understand from celestial dragons that some of them can be awakened to how evil and how bad, what they're doing is, right? And understand, like, have a moral epiphany, right? Why could that not happen to someone like Jupiter? Because just remember, with Jupiter, most likely it seems like the track to becoming a Gorsay is essentially, first you become you're a normal celestial dragon, then if it's noticed that you're good in combat, you get made a holy knight, right? And if you're a really strong holy knight, then you get made a permanent servant of Imu by being promoted to Gorsay, right? So normal celestial dragon to holy knight to Gorsay seems to be the promotion trajectory, right? With Jupiter, all that could have happened is essentially celestial dragon grows up like an evil, nasty celestial dragon. He's strong, made a god's knight, Once you're a god's knight, you can't leave. There's no leaving. Because Imu now has control over you, right? He can kill you from afar, right? There's limits. He can kill you from afar. He can do whatever, right? We saw with Herald. You can't leave once you're a god's knight, right? So with Jupiter, and you can't disobey or you die, right? So with Jupiter, once he's a god's knight, at some point, like, it's possible he has some sort of moral epiphany, like a Mjosgård, like a Homing, whatever, realizes it's not good what he's doing. He realizes, oh shit, are we the bad guys, right? But you can't really do anything at that point because you're basically on a life. You're attached to. You can't say no. At that point, you say no to your boss, you die, right? At some point, Imu promotes him to Gorsay. Probably the most morally correct thing for Jupiter to do would be rebel. Don't care if you get killed or not, right? Just rebel. Be like, fuck you, I'm not doing this. Imu does whatever he wants. He kills you probably, right? But it's possible that Jupiter went with the route of like, okay, I'm a Gorsay now. What I'm going to do is basically harm reduction, right? Damage reduction, right? If I try and fight back, I die. So what I'll try to do is basically use my position as Gorsay to the best of my ability to try and sway decisions away from the worst possible outcome. So I'm not saying any of this is true. It's entirely possible Jupiter just is a Gorsay, bad Gorsay like the rest of them, right? I'm just saying that it's not like it's so black and white that it's just like, how could a Gorsay be a bad guy? It's like, you could see a very realistic trajectory for someone becoming a Gorsay while having still at some point in their journey realized that what we're doing is evil, and then basically being caught between like either I rebel and then I die, or I use this position to try and like mitigate some of the things that my colleagues and my boss are trying to do. You ultimately make more of the most morally, I don't know, righteous, like principle-based thing might be to just rebel and then die. The more practical route, if you're trying to make change, might be to keep the position and try and harm reduction, damage reduction. You see what I'm saying? So Garp is very different. I think Garp you can hold to a different moral standard in that, I would be actually more lenient towards Jupiter's case to Garp's case here in this regard, because one, Jupiter, like all celestial dragons grow up in like deep brainwashing territory, like literally a bubble where they're raised, like every single person around them from birth is basically teaching them terrible morality, right? That's not the case for when somebody joins the Marines, like it's not like you're being grown up, like brainwashed in a bubble that like you need to become a Marine and help celestial dragons and shit, right? But either way, right? So I view it as more admirable for someone to have an epiphany when you're a celestial dragon, because it's kind of like every single person around you is telling you that it's okay to do this, or like not even okay, encouraging you to do this, and you have this realization that you shouldn't be doing it, right? Even though everyone around you is telling you that you should. It's kind of like the first person to become a vegan or vegetarian was probably like a really fucking admirable person, because like fucking morally there's no excuse for it, right? We all do it. We kind of just are like, fuck it, it's animals, right? It's not morally correct, right? But all of humanity basically just gives us the okay, right? So the first person ever to be like, wait a second, guys, I don't think we should do this. We don't need to. We could eat plants and stuff. That person had like a deep moral backbone to go against what everybody else is telling you is true. Because ultimately your morals are passed down from other people. Nobody's coming up with moral structure on their own. It's just not the case, right? So your environment can definitely affect how you grow up. It's actually such a understatement, right? Like your environment is like whatever you think your moral framework is, it's pretty much entirely determined by your environment and what you took in from other sources, internet, whatever, basically. But you did not come up with your morality on your own. You just think you did, Anyway. What was I saying? Yeah, you can still get brainwashed as a Marine. I'm just saying that it is objectively much more impressive to be, like, you're not just in the Marines when you're in the Marines, right? You still have a family and home and society and stuff to go to. You're not just hearing Marine brainwashing 24/7. If you're Celestial Dragon and you awaken from Celestial Dragon conditioning, that is the most impressive thing. But you've probably done so many terrible things in the process, it's hard, right? Now, between Garp and Jupiter, the simple difference is that if Garp chose to rebel against the world government and the Marines, he doesn't automatically die, especially for a character as strong as Garp. You don't automatically die. With Jupiter, we already saw with Saturn, once you're a Gorsay, we already saw with Harold, once you've got the mark that's a level 2 or higher mark, you're done. You have no, like, your brain, your life, you are on a life, like, you're on a, what do you call? Yeah, you're just on a cord that's attached to God at this point. And he can kill you with a thought, right? Garp, that's not the case, So, this is not to go after Garp or anything here. It's just like, Jupiter's situation is far more extreme than Garp's, If you're Garp and you rebel, then you're Dragon, right? You live a hard life. It's a difficult life. You're fighting against a really uphill battle, but you don't just automatically die. But if you're Jupiter and you go against Emu, you automatically die. We saw that already with Saturn. Or Emu just forces you to do whatever he wants. We saw that with Harold, So, yeah, it's a very different situation. Jupiter's essentially walking around with a gun to his head. If Garp, it's so different, right? Like, if you're Jupiter and you realize you want to rebel, you already have a gun pressed to your head. If you're someone like Garp and you realize you want to rebel, you are now on the run, but it's not automatic death. I still defend Garp's decisions, and I still think it's good for the future of the world, etc. That there is somebody good in the Marines that's nurturing a good generation of the Marines. But I'm just explaining why Jupiter is not an irredeemable. Look, the way I put it is basically like, if Jupiter is a traitor, you could see a sympathetic story to him or whatever, potentially. And I also think Oda would probably kill him anyway in the end. So if you're like, well, Jupiter's not forgivable in my eyes and he should die, I would guess that Oda would probably do that too, because that's what Oda's done so far for the Celestial Dragons who have had similar epiphanies, right? Like, Oda doesn't really get... He can do both in that he... I don't think Oda necessarily wants to get into the moral nitty-gritty of, like... Because it's too complicated, right? Like, and it's hard to take a hard stance on, like, no, you should completely forgive these characters, or no, you shouldn't completely forgive these characters, because, like, it's good that they've realized that they're good... it's good that they've realized the evils that they've done, but that doesn't fix or change or like undo the evils that they've done, right? So it's like that in itself, there's moral debates for God knows how many centuries about, good or evil, what punishment deserves this. I think for Oda, it's easier to just kill them off in the story to avoid that. So, Don Quixote homing, yeah, his heart ultimately came to be in the right place. Don Quixote to Miasgord, his heart ultimately came to be in the right place as well. They did make the effort, which is really, really, really impressive. Oda still doesn't, in the narrative, give them a free pass. He does kill them off, right? So, and then it's up to you to kind of decide or determine, like, what degree you forgive them in the story, I imagine Oda would go the same path with Jupiter. Jupiter might do something to help the Alliance or feed them information. Imu probably finds out, kills him, and then we don't have to have this debate, If that's the route, Jupiter could just be a normal fucking Gorsay too, right? We shouldn't. I'm just playing with the idea here. Anyway, continuing on. John Easton, good to see you as usual, man. Thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for nearly 3 years. Thanks for the long-time support. I hope you enjoyed the latest podcast. Prediction: Imu reminisces over the last time he had to descend. That's a good prediction. That's a unique prediction. He also ignores all attempts at talking and immediately puts belt to ass. I like that. I would love to see that. Imu reminisces about last time he had to descend. Imu then skips talking and starts beating people up. Pool of Dead 3088, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 27 months, man. Prediction: Imu's drums of oppression awaken Figarland Redbeard, who was under the castle for centuries. Chapter ends with Vinsmoke Romeo revealed as the man with the burn scar. Oh man, the Vinsmoke Romeo post probably brought more slander down on Sanji than like anything else I could ever recall. Figarland Redbeard. I am going to leave your... Here's the deal. I'll put your prediction up, but if we need space, I'm going to delete it. All right? Figarland Redbeard and Vinsmoke Romeo. Figarland arrives and Vinsmoke Romeo is the man with the bird scar. Elijah Petty, thanks for the 2. Emu's Devil Fruit appears to be similar to Big Mom. Elijah, I cannot give you that one just because I think it already kind of seemed like that recently. Last chapter. Tiptio Treviso, thanks for the 2. I'm not part of the Law will sacrifice himself. Shit, okay, so then I'm probably... No, but I swear that was related to... Wasn't that related to your post? Am I mixing this up completely? Let me take a look at your recent post. Because I swear that was part of it. Hold on. Let me see. Am I imagining things? I must be imagining things. Let's see. I might have been mixing that up with another one. Oh, I see. I mixed... Yours was about the percentage of Blackbeard being... My bad, man. My bad. I remember there was another very long... there was another Pirate King podcast submission this month that I discussed about Law potentially. I see what you're saying. My bad. That's why I was getting confused by your comments, because I was like, aren't I agreeing with what you say here to some degree? I was remembering the other Pirate King podcast submission that was specifically about Law. Law potentially helping Blackbeard. Yeah. I hope my Pirate King podcast answer to you was satisfactory this time around. I hope you understand what I'm saying here, which is that, like, I feel like there'll be a large section of the Final War where it's not going to be about, like, one singular final villain. It'll be a lot of factions vying for power. And then somewhere, maybe the 50-60% mark of the story, Blackbeard kind of pushes past the noise and cements himself as the final villain, you know? So my bad, man. Dom too cool, thanks to 2. Emu calls out Chopper and his fruit. That's a good prediction, because something's up there. Emu calls out Chopper and his fruit. So one thing I've thought about is that if Chopper's fruit is the Force God fruit, I'm like, is Chopper's final opponent still going to be Doc Q and stronger? Because, like, Chopper then deserves probably, like, a much more powerful opponent, right? Also, let's get stream likes up to 100 real quick. Let's get stream likes up to 100. Tom9739, thanks for the 5. What about Hadruden sacrificing himself for Loki, like Ace? That's a parallel for Loki and Luffy, causing Loki to flip sides in order to save him with Dami Reversi. That would be insane, but I don't know if Loki would flip sides, like, save him with, like, asking Emu to save Hadruden with Dami Reversi? I don't know about all that. Okay, hold on. So what I'm going to do now is, let me make everything a little bit smaller to open up a bit more space for us. You see? Make it smaller, open up a bit more space. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, hopefully this helps. Hopefully it's not too small for you guys. Okay. Hadruden sacrifices himself, causing Loki to want to change sides to save him. Mark Krangle, thank you very, very much for joining. Feel free, thank you for the support, man, and feel free to test out your new emotes. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Lil Emu, thanks for the 10. Could Lily be a reference to Lilith, Queen of Hell? Did Emu want her as his queen? Did he betray her? Is it why Amazon Lily doesn't trust men? His sickness and love sickness related. Help me cook this little ish lol. That's a lot of interesting connections there. You never know, because a lot of it could just be like Oda wanting a name that sounds clearly similar to Vivi. Emu wanting her as his queen is very, very believable. I don't think he betrayed her. I think that she realized that she had been manipulated by him, and decided to help Joy Boy. Okay, hold on 1 second. 1 second, babe. Hold on. Let me use the phone. 1 second. 1 second. Let me send 2 texts. All right. I sent a text. I don't know if she can hear me. It's probably fine. Yeah, I don't know about Lilith, Queen of Hell, because, like, there's sometimes names just kind of line up and feel similar. Did Emu want her? I do believe that Emu wanted her as his queen. I think that she betrayed him, because what I believe happened, and I elaborate on that a little bit more in this Tuesday's video, is I believe that Emu essentially, I think the Ancient Kingdom was generally in the right. I think it was good. And I think Emu did some things to manipulate people into believing the Ancient Kingdom was evil. This is what we've seen many, many times in the story so far, with Crocodile's takeover, Doflamingo's takeover. Orochi attempted to brainwash the people of Wano, but outside the flower capital, it seems like people didn't really buy it. We just see this everywhere, right? So I think Emu did some manipulation, got people to band together against the Ancient Kingdom. Once he got people to band together against the Ancient Kingdom, everybody had to fight the Ancient Kingdom, yada yada. Lily Alabasta was one of those 20 kingdoms. And then the fact that Lily then was the one to spread the poneglyphs, which go against Imu, and she did this at the last second, because she was sailing to Marijua, is what it sounded like, and that's when she learned something and then did the poneglyph thing. Or it was right before her final trip to Marijua, is what it sounds like, right? So, to me, it seems like she was part of the group that was manipulated to believe that they should be fighting against the Ancient Kingdom. So she assumed that Imu was good. She assumed that he was in the right. And then she assumed that he was in the right. And then she likely found out the truth at the last second. And when she found out the truth, she then betrayed him by helping Joy Boy and sending Joy Boy's message to the poneglyphs around the world. Hold on. God's Not Dead MC, thanks a lot. Whole Void Century never happened, but is happening right now. Joy Boy is Luffy, Lily is Vivi, poneglyphs written by Robin and sent to the past, etc. What? I don't believe what you're saying is correct. But what you just said just now would be like the most mind-blowingly insane One Piece theory if true. If it was like a loop. Because the similarities between everything we've read about Void Century and the characters and cast then is so remarkably similar to right now that you could almost imagine it being, like the parallels are so like Joy Boy, Lily, stuff like that, that you could almost see it. I'll put that down as a prediction. I don't think it's a prediction even for this chapter necessarily, but I don't think that it lines up fully, but I think that's a really, really cool, crazy idea. Void Century never happened is actually happening right now. Bahanor, thanks a lot. BTW, yesterday I started playing Deltarune's Weird Route for the first time. I will once more spend 50 plus real life hours fighting Jevil, Roaring Fraud, and Gerson. Please give me strength, Morgan chat. Please give Bahanort strength. I have never played Deltarune, but that sounds really interesting to me. Rockin' Troll Arp. Luffy's going to lose an eye. Thank you very much. Luffy's going to lose an eye to Emu and get the eye patch. Perfectly makes a big loop. When One Piece started, Luffy tried to get rid of one eye to look more piratey, but he didn't earn that till now. Oh, shit. I've never heard anybody mention that point. That's a really good point. Luffy tried to get rid of an eye, but that's a really good point. I've never heard about that. Or I've never heard someone say that. Luffy loses an eye to Emu and becomes pirate with eye patch. It's a really cool thought. Taptio Treviso thinks it's true. If Harold lived, he would have replaced Saturn as Gorsay. Oh, for sure. For sure. I do think that Gorsay may have also some degree to do with... I don't know. I don't know what the track... Like, also, let's get stream likes up to 100 real quick because we're almost there. It's interesting because Garling obviously replaced Saturn as Gorsay. But my guess would be that Garling had been stronger than Saturn for quite some time. Garling seems like he would have been stronger than Saturn for a while now, right? Probably even at the time of God Valley, I imagine he was stronger than Saturn. So my thought is just that I don't think it's just based on strength. I think you got to complete a pretty extended tenure as Holy Knight before then you're made God's Knight. And then the exceptions would be, like, we see some God's Knights that are a little bit, or Gorsay that are a bit younger, like Jupiter. So maybe that just happened because, like, Emu decided he had to punish and remove one of his Gorsay, so a slot opened up a little bit earlier. And that's why Jupiter got anointed, That'd be my guess. But I think it's not just strength. I think I think once you're that strong, then you're probably going to be made a Gorsay at some point, but it's not immediate. Because I figure once you're made Gorsay, like like Emu can wait at he can make you Gorsay at any point. So he probably wants to see like a lifetime of servitude and building up a good resume and stuff like that too. You know? Because I mean, put it this way, by this logic, Shamrock should also probably be a Gorsay right now, right? A lot of people think Shamrock is stronger than Garling. I think that's probably a safe bet. Shamrock's stronger than Garling, but it's not just like Garling's the one who got promoted first, not Shamrock. So clearly some degree of seniority and tenure and actually like doing the time as God's Knight, like going up the ranks, like doing God's Knight first, then you get promoted presumably to Supreme Commander of God's Knights, and then after that, at some point, if you were like a really good Supreme Commander, then you get made permanent as Gorsay, right? So yeah, I imagine Harold at some point would have been replacing Saturn as Gorsay, but I think that it wouldn't have been immediate. I think it would have still been a long, long time. Julian Reed, thanks for the 2. Zunisha feels Emu's presence like when Gear 5 was awakened. Oh my god. Zunisha showing up right now. Or even just cutting to Zunisha right now would be crazy. Zunisha feels Emu's presence. It's from Julian Reed. JP, thanks for the 5. Prediction, Emu's weapon is or is related to the spear that Nika is depicted with. Oh, that would be a cool little dynamic. Emu would be like, haha, Luffy, I got your special spear. Luffy's like, I don't know how to, what? I don't know how to use those. Emu's weapon is related to the spear Nika has been depicted with. That's an interesting prediction. Here, let me see if I can save a little space here. Yeah. Okay. Let me start writing over here for the moment as well. I guess if I move this over, we can save even a bit more space. Is there something else I can bump up? Nah, All right. You know what? Good enough. Good enough. I'll start writing over here for the moment. Pool of Dead 3088. Thanks for 5. Do you think One Piece will get a sequel / spinoff like Boruto? No, I don't think that works because like you got to remember, Naruto is a story that didn't really have a clear ending in mind. It's a story that like the author Kishimoto barely had even the main characters planned, you know, to start the story with. I think he did always the whole story ended up being about leading to like this final battle between Naruto and Sasuke. Sasuke wasn't even a character that he thought of initially. Like Naruto is a story that he kept coming up with stuff as it went, right? One Piece is written as a convergent story, right? It's divergent in the sense that yes, lots of new ideas and the world is built and lots of character threads and stuff, like it all expands, but it's all heading towards a key point that ties together everything and brings everything together, right? There's so much setup that's all converging to a singular thing, right? Naruto wasn't really a series like that. It was kind of like the author started putting things out there and then slowly started coming up with more ideas. It's like, okay, well, now next we can have the Akatsuki. Okay, and then next we can have this stuff, yada, yada. And so because there was never any sort of set end game point for Naruto, other than, well, Naruto needs to become Hokage, it sort of just turned into, okay, it's just going to end in a big war. Similar to stuff like Bleach, right? Like, it's not like from the beginning of Bleach, it felt like the whole plot is heading towards one thing. From One Piece, from the very beginning, the whole plot has been heading towards a few key things, like the resolution of the Will of D, the finding of the One Piece, which in itself seems to be something that changes the entire world to turn it into the ideal world, right? Seemingly something that would end all conflict, yada, yada. The collapse of the world government, all of that, right? Like, all of it's always been building towards a single cohesive end game that checks off everything, right? It's very hard to write a sequel to that kind of story because it almost seems like, if you read the Harley and everything, it almost seems like the conclusion of One Piece would just resolve everything. It would wipe the board clean and resolve everything, right? So from something like that, the only thing you can it feels very cheap after something like that to then just come up with more villains and more conflict, right? If you look at a story like Bleach, Bleach kind of has worked as like a story where like people talk about, can Bleach get the Hell arc next? Bleach could easily get a Hell arc next because Bleach has always functioned as like introduction of new conflict, new sets of villains. Okay, we deal with those. Okay, introduction of new conflict, new sets of villains. Okay, we deal with those, etc. One Piece has technically been like that, but all in the context of a larger conflict that needs to be resolved, right? It's always been in the context of a larger conflict. So we go to little islands, but everything's operating inside one big conflict, right? Stories like Naruto, even Jujutsu Kaisen that get sequels, those tend to be stories where there's not really any sort of larger, like the conflicts keep changing what they are over time. Like from the beginning of Naruto and even like the first, all of Naruto Part 1 could conclude, and you would still have no idea that the whole story is supposed to end in some sort of big war that concludes this cycle of hate that's gone back to whatever, the Sage of the Six Paths time. Like it's more just introducing new conflicts and kind of stringing them together to feel kind of connected. Same with Jujutsu Kaisen, like it does all like a lot of the fights and stuff that happen against disaster curses. Okay, now culling games. Okay, now this stuff. It's kind of just like, and then this happened sort of storytelling. We do get to the final battle against Sukuna, but you know, you can get there through many different ways, right? It's ultimately just about like one fight against one character, right? One Piece is very different in that regard, in that to write a sequel for One Piece and not have it feel forced or like just coming up with more villains, because like One Piece's story, it's so comprehensive. It's going to cover all history, right? First world, second world, third world. There's not going to be some secret other villains that need to be dealt with. You would need to do something very much like the only way to go forward from One Piece's conclusion would be starting from scratch, using the same cast of characters like the Straw Hats, and send them to space. But One Piece is just, the way it's writing is, it's so thorough in terms of like all aspects of lore are being checked off. All like it doesn't feel like there's going to be areas that can be necessarily expanded on other than short side stories. Like, oh, I want to read more about Roger's adventures or something like that, right? If all of One Piece concludes, the dawn of the world is created, the One Piece itself is found, created, a perfect world is created, all villains of the past have been destroyed, ended, yada yada. Every missing piece of lore has been resolved, all the ancient weapons, everything wiped clean. Where do you go from there, right? The only option is clumsy additional stuff from space, like bring characters from space down, right? Or send them into space. That's pretty much it. But then it risks turning One Piece into just like random fights, right? One Piece isn't built to, like Jujutsu Kaisen, Majula is an easy addition because it's like Jujutsu Kaisen's always just been the plot's an excuse to get to fights, right? You know, Bleach, it's kind of just like, it's always functioned as like, here's a new group of enemies that the world needs to defend itself, or like Soul Society needs to defend against, right? You know? It's easy to write more storylines for that stuff because it's just following the rhythm of what's already been there. One Piece, you don't, and Dragon Ball, same thing. Dragon Ball, it's always just like, who's the new characters that we're fighting, right? Villain of the month, right? One Piece isn't like that. So if you want to do a good sequel to One Piece, you can't just bring in a new batch of villains and be like, now we got to fight these guys, because there's so much more layers of storytelling that have gone into constructing like the concept of this dystopic world and the themes and the ideas, and the meaning behind so many layers of like all the locations that they've come up with, the racial conflicts, all of that, right? All of that coming together to be resolved in this big final battle. One Piece has never been a story where it's just like, well, here's a new batch of villains to fight, you know? Every new batch of villains to fight in One Piece is serving the broader story. So either Oda has to create a new titanic monolith with a whole slew of new grand ideas and metaphors and stuff like that as to what he's trying to communicate about the real world, or he just dilutes One Piece and turns it into like, here's a new group of space pirates for you guys to fight, you know? And that's kind of shitty, you know? Factory Cow. Oh, sorry. Factory. Oh, no. Is this right? No. Yeah, Factory Cow. Does Bonnie do stuff this arc, or is she carried version 2? I like to believe that Bonnie, her ability is so useful because it has this rare thing, which is that it can like, we're always like, is this character in their prime, not in their prime? Bonnie's fruit is so cool because it can just guarantee every character gets to their prime, you know, like, or isn't in their prime. So I would like to believe that Bonnie, like, Jarl's the best test subject here. If Bonnie turns Jarl back into his prime right here, similar to what we saw with Hyogoro and the Ice Onis, then suddenly, like, Pandora's box is opened. In the sense that now Bonnie's this crazy wild card in the final war, in that, like, any character who's an old gen character is now officially back on the table as potentially being returned to their prime thanks to Bonnie's bullshit, you know? So I would love to see that kind of get rolling here in Elbaf, but we'll see. Also, let's get stream likes up to 100 because we're literally almost there. Taptir Trevisa, thanks for the 2. Can Doc Q and Stronger beat Chopper and Monster Point? I think so. Chopper and Monster Point, how'd I put this? Chopper and Monster Point is like, he's stronger than characters like the Yeti Cool Brothers, like we saw, right? He isn't terrible, but I would like to believe that, like, he's not terrible, but he's not going to be fighting or defeating any Toby Roppo type characters or anything, you know? His best win is essentially the Yeti Cool Brother that he beat. He beat a Yeti Cool Brother, and he beat that big alligator from Seducing Woods, but the big alligator doesn't really scratch even, like, one of Big Mom, not even one of Big Mom's officers, you know? So, Chopper and Monster Point, obscenely strong for pre-time skip, not a scrub by New World standards, but not gonna defeat any actual, not an officer of a Yonko crew or anything like that. Doc Q and Stronger, we haven't seen much of them, but they should be a lot better, you know? Like, Doc Q can literally give you seemingly any disease. Law only undid it thanks to Haki. Random Guy, thanks to the 5. There are some design similarities Emu shares with Oars. Horns, 3 skulls, cross symbol. Could we get the Oars 2.0 battle against Emu? That is a great observation, and I think that we could be headed for that. I keep forgetting that Emu is gigantic here. I really keep forgetting that Emu's gigantic. He should be bigger than Loki, right? So we could really be heading towards that. It just feels odd because we're not seeing him to scale. Like, we're seeing him sit on the roof of, like, a castle that is supersized and gigantic, but we need to see him next to other characters for scale to really have that register how big he is. God's Not Dead MC, thanks a lot. Join the time loop agenda, sell your reincarnation piece stocks. Pluton will be created by Iceberg and the frozen Godula giants. I mean, the time loop idea is really, really cool. It'd be really, really, really cool. The idea that the first world, second world, third world is just a reincarnation loop would be so sick. Not reincarnation, just a time loop in general would be so sick. That'd be really crazy. If it's just a time loop, oh man, oh my god. If it's just a time loop, like, that is such an exciting and fascinating idea. It really, really is. It's a really exciting and fascinating idea. I love that idea. It's just... And even just the way it's referred to, the first world, second world, third world, like the idea that, like, because you would think it's referred to more so as like the first era, second era, third era, but it makes more sense that the world is being destroyed and reborn, and it's not just periods of time, but it's rather literally the world is resetting and restarting. That would be so sick. That would be so sick. I mean, like, Joy Boy fucking looks like Luffy, and he sounds and acts and talks a bit like Luffy. I just don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to think about it right now, but that is a really fascinating idea. Aryandel, thanks for the 2. Straw Hats try taking Sommer's hostage, but Emu destroys their heart. His heart. Straw Hats try... Oh, shit. And then Zoro Ryuma shit, and then it's just the same thing. Not going to think about it. Should I not think about it, or should I really be thinking about it? Should I not think about it, or should I be really, really, really fixating on this? I don't know. Straw Hats try taking Sommer's hostage, but Emu destroys his heart. I just processed what you just said. That is a crazy cool prediction. King GG6681 thanks to the 2. Emu kills Jarl and buffs the God's Knights. Oh my god. Poor Jarl. Emu kills Jarl and buffs the God's Knights. One King GG6881. King GG681. All right. Slowpoke picnic. Emu will get amnesia and run around with Colin. Like Big Mom. Emu gets amnesia and will run around with Colin. I'm going to put it down. Slowpoke. I am going to have to wrap stream soon, so we're going to do a few more, and then we're going to have to call it. Henchme987 thanks to 2 prediction. Evu's evil master plan is to goon with the Seraphim. He is sinking the world to make his home into a private island. It's not too far from reality, huh? That's why he wanted to make... Why did he make the Seraphim so powerful then? But you never know. Okay. Ryan Ufor thanks to the 2. Could the first world have been on the moon? That's an interesting idea. I don't know. That's a very interesting idea. A lot of interesting, crazy thoughts been put out there here. Behanor, thanks a lot. It took me 20 hours to beat Gevil, 10 to beat Spampton, 30 to beat Roaring Knight, and I still have to beat Gerson, and I'm about to fight them all again. LMAO, you should try Deltarune one day. What is Deltarune? Let me see. Deltarune. Ah, the characters look kind of like Undertale. Undertale, right? Yeah, that's interesting. I'll keep the tab up. I'll take a look later. I'll keep the tab up. Taptia is saying, War just thinking, is Zoro his own ancestor? Lol. You never know how history gets... I mean, is Joy Boy... Is Luffy's own ancestor him? Who knows at this point? Newport's Poppy, thanks for 2. Emu beats Loki, Zoro, and Sanji, Luffy, and Emu... Oh, Emu beats Loki, Zoro, Sanji, Luffy, and Emu 1v1 teased. Let's get that down. Emu beats Loki, Zoro, Sanji, Luffy versus Emu 1v1 teased. I am so excited for next chapter. I'm so excited for next chapter. Okay, I think we are going to have to call it in No More Supers. I think we're going to have to call it here. Yeah, No More Supers. Because I'm going to have to head out shortly. I'll keep stream going 5 more minutes and then probably call it. Saeed Abdo, go to the volume 107. Go to the volume 107 changes on the wiki and check Blackbeard's line changes in chapter 1081 about the Ope Ope fruit. What does he say? Okay, volume changes. Okay, volume 107 One Piece. Let's see. So there's some specific volume. Is it author's notes? Oh, volume changes. Volume changes. Blackbeard's statement on the Opium Enemy adjusted from immortality to perennial youth, making it consistent with the perennial youth operation. Yeah, I'm understanding more and more people's argument that it's the perennial youth is different from the immortality thing, and that Emu's inability to be damaged could just be from his natural Zoan abilities. I want to wait and see to get like further, like we'll understand more hopefully in the chapters or Emu fights, you know. My only thought is that, so here's my observation of Emu with the God's Knights and the Gorsay so far, right? With the God's Knights and the Gorsay, it seems like the Gorsay are granted agelessness. The God's Knights are not granted agelessness, right? Both the Gods Knights and the Gorsay have, so the order it seems to be is that level 1 pack, you get nothing, right? It's just a cool tattoo. You get it, you're part of the club, right? Level 2, you're now a Gods Knight. You get regeneration, but you still grow older. Level 3, you're a Gorsay. You get regeneration and you grow, and you stay young, and you no longer age, right? So that's consistent across, that's what we see consistently, right? Gunko seems to be the exception, but we don't understand why Gunko is the exception, right? Yet, right? But the rest of the Gods Knights, they seem to grow older, cycle out, yada yada, right? We see that with Sommers, we see that with Garling, etc., right? It's Gorsay who get to stay the same age. Once you're a Gorsay, you're set at the same age, right? So because of that, that's what leads me to feel that that's one of the big reasons that I feel that these two abilities are part and parcel. Like Imu's essentially, like it's all part of the perennial youth operation, regeneration, staying young, right? And Imu is essentially giving his subordinates portions of those, like fractions of those abilities, the further that they help him, or the further that he bonds with them, right? Level 1, you get nothing. Level 2, okay, now you get regeneration. Level 3, now you get regeneration and you get the agelessness. So that's why in my mind, I've kind of pieced those two things together as being the product of the same ability, the Ope Ope no Mi thing, right? I think it'd be interesting if regeneration is just Imu's own Zoan's ability, but the agelessness that he's granting is him granting the Ope Ope no Mi's ability. Does that make sense? So OK King says that would give Imu too much for just one Devil Fruit, in my opinion. That's also what I personally feel too, that like Imu's fruit, his Zoan is good for all of his offensive abilities, right? Like makes him really powerful, also allows him to create pacts and like Dami Reversi people and stuff like that. But my guess has been that it's the immortality surgery, which has been referred to, the Ope Ope no Mi is referred to as the ultimate Devil Fruit, right? It's the immortality surgery that's responsible for Imu's regeneration and agelessness, right? Because in my mind, part of it is just like, well, one fruit basically making you completely invincible and giving you all these crazy other powers, that seems like a lot. But if it's the strongest Devil Fruit, maybe it makes sense. Daniela Vorsky, thanks for the 5. First thing Imu does is attack Zoro. Zoro pulls out Ashura and gets one shot. So we've already got that prediction in some ways, but if we get the Ashura thing, I'll give it to you. If we get the Ashura thing, I'll give it to you. And I do. This is the last super, or I guess 2 more supers, and I think that then we got to call the stream. Zoro pulls out Ashura, but is one-shotted. All right, Tiptia thanks the 2. Gunko stays young because she stays in the flower room. Oh, that's an interesting idea. That's a very interesting idea. All right, 2 minutes, and then I think I gotta head out. Oh, never mind. Never mind. Tiptiu says, oh, the strongest Devil Fruit has broken regeneration too much. I mean, it is kind of like... It is kind of like... How do I say this? It is, in a sense, because it's not just broken regeneration. It's like... It breaks all rules of one... Like, it's its own whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, literally... The 6 strongest characters of the modern era all did their best hockey attacks or whatever at the same time, and it didn't do jack shit to Imu, right? That is, in a sense, like, it's not like a minor addition, you know, that is kind of, it is essentially immortality, right? It is essentially, he's invincible, right? Like, God knows what level of hockey you would need to damage him like that. So you can't really underplay that. Like, I would go so far as to say between Imu's 2 powers, which is like his offensive powers, Dami Reversi, the Holy Knight packs, all of that stuff, etc., like all the crazy stuff that he does that are clearly part of his own Devil Fruit's powers, at the end of the day, the thing that makes him truly unstoppable is the other thing, which is the crazy regeneration. Emu shatters Ragnar. I can put down that, and then that's my last thing for the day. I think now we're gonna be heading out for dinner. Emu shatters Ragnar. Tetrahedral milk. Like Ragnar the hammer or the ice, because I'm gonna put down Ragnar the hammer because the ice, we've already got somebody else that predicted that. All right, everybody. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for the support. And yeah, with that, I am gonna call stream, and then watch out for Monday stream. I'm gonna be reacting to the Elbaf anime, so watch out for that. Monday stream, I'm gonna be reacting to the Elbaf anime because I'm really curious as to how it is now that it's going seasonal, and I think we're getting Loki's reveal. And then watch out for Tuesday's videos. I kind of give a general breakdown of... I'm not going to spoil it right now. And then definitely, if you think Emu's cool, if you're excited about Emu, hop on the big spring sale that we got going right now. Hop on the big spring sale. You can get buy 2 posters and you get 3 free. And Emu, Nidhogg, and Nika, these 3 posters are April only. So definitely jump on these while you get a chance. You buy 2 posters, you can get all 3 of them for free. Buy any 2 posters that you want, and you can get all 3 of the God Trio for free. Buy 2 of the God Trio and get 3 other posters for free. We got just a really, really good deal going right now, so make sure you take advantage of that. And yeah.